Hello everyone, I am Julian Morris with the Channel 5 News. In the headlines, health professionals suggest a family approach to fighting diabetes. Dominica closer to having a 3-year plan for coffee cultivation, and police seem to have cracked open the case of a missing money vault. The details coming up.
M&J Covering is the producer of designed galvanized and galvalume in Dominica. They design to your specifications, color and length, 4 styles of galvanized and galvalume pre-painted roofing sheets as requested, and supply all your galvalume accessories. M&J Covering helps you control spending and reduce waste. At M&J Covering, they are also equipped to build your roof to precise standards anywhere on island. So come to M&J Covering at 1 Mile in Portsmouth or call 445-5001-275-5003 today.
First up in the news, Dominica joins the world in observance of World Diabetes Day on Wednesday, November 14 under the theme, The Family and Diabetes. Over 425 million people currently live with diabetes. Most of those cases are type 2 diabetes. This is largely preventable through regular physical activity, a healthy and balanced diet, and the promotion of healthy living environments. In anticipation of Wednesday's observance, I spoke with health practitioner Nurse Priscilla Prevost. Here is part of that interview.
I think we have made some strides with some people, but for the larger part, I think there is still a lot of work that needs to be done, because some people do not have the correct understanding and appreciation of the condition, and also to the kind of information that they have gotten from some people, like they get mixed messages, right? So some people may think that, okay, they're diagnosed with diabetes, and once they get, it's a problem with insulin, and so once they get insulin or they get tablets to manage their diabetes or to treat their diabetes, then everything is okay. And that is a fallacy, you know. And so I think there is more room for greater emphasis on what actually contributes to diabetes, the risk factors for diabetes, and what we can do, one, to reduce our risk so that we have a decrease in the incidence of diabetes, and also to educate those who have already been diagnosed with diabetes so that they can know what the condition is all about and how they can reverse. Now we're talking about reversing diabetes and reversing the complications of diabetes.
Nurse Prevost says there is a better way. She believes people can be educated that diabetes is preventable, it can be controlled and even be reversed.
We do have people who are reversing the condition. We do have people who were on medication, who have gone off medication and are experiencing normal glucose levels, normal HbA1c levels.
Prevost says prevention starts during childhood.
Presently, one of the threats to our young people, to children, is that we can see, and we are seeing, children getting type 2 diabetes, which type 2 is adult onset diabetes. But because of childhood obesity, we are seeing type 2 in children when before type 1 diabetes was what you would find in children. And type 2, as we said, it's an adult onset. It is non-insulin dependent. Type 1 is insulin dependent, whereas type 2 is non-insulin dependent. And so with increase in childhood obesity, we are going to see an increase in type 2 diabetes in children, you know. So this is something that parents need to be aware of, and this is why this year the theme for World Diabetes Day, which is tomorrow, is diabetes in the family. because it is not just a one-person thing. You know, if a child or an adult develops diabetes, it's not just they that is being affected. The entire family is affected, and as a result, the entire family need to take charge and take responsibility for the one individual who may have a diagnosis of diabetes, and also the entire family need to take responsibility for preventing diabetes within that immediate family and also preventing diabetes in the community.
She believes diabetes is not a communicable disease, but if a family consumes large volumes of fat and sugary foods and lots of meat, this could lead to development of the disease. She recommends healthy eating, regular exercise, lots of water, and stress management. Dominicans living in areas prone to flooding, landslides and fallen rocks had to remain vigilant once more on Tuesday. A tropical wave with an associated area of disturbed weather was affecting the country. That feature was expected to influence weather across the island up to early Wednesday. A flood watch for the island had to be upgraded to a flood warning. That warning, which was originally in effect until midday, was later extended to 6 p.m. Channel 5 News traveled to Fort Saint-Jean to check on the bypass there. We noticed that vehicles were able to cross with no difficulty. There was also some heavy equipment on site. Back at the Geneva Bridge, there were no signs of difficulty. The new bridge was built to make allowance for rising flood waters. But the abutment of the old Bailey Bridge there appeared to be further undermined by flood waters. Commuters no longer utilize that bridge. The Caribbean is one of the key priority regions for the Green Climate Fund due to its exposure to climate impact and its needs of climate finance. To this date, GCF Board has approved a number of climate adaptation projects in Barbados, Grenada, Dominica and other Caribbean countries. The Green Climate Fund and the Caribbean Development Bank CDB on Friday signed a legal agreement to open doors for more climate finance projects in the Caribbean region. The signing of the Accreditation Master Agreement AMA took place on the margins of the Green Climate Fund's Caribbean Structured Dialogue meeting in Grenada. The event brought together regional stakeholders to plan climate action across the Caribbean region. The GCF Executive Director welcomed the agreement and stressed its importance for increasing financial flows to climate projects in the region. The Caribbean is one of the key priority regions for GCF due to its exposure to climate impacts and its needs of climate finance. A number of pictures making the rounds on social media showing the police accompanied by a few young men in handcuffs surrounded by an open vault or safe with money from a local business establishment. There is a note which reads Nassif Petty Cash. As we do not have an official police report on this development, we are unable to say definitively whether the young men in handcuffs were arrested or simply assisting the police with their investigations. No information yet as to how much money was involved. Channel 5 News has been told there was an arrest in connection with the incident, but despite our call to the police, we have not been able to confirm this. This is Channel 5 News. We'll have more after the break.
Imagine you have Hollywood at your command. Introducing Flow Evil.
Red cheese, gold rings, all black, everything creeping through the night.
Anywhere you are.
Big girls don't scream hard like Halloween, make me feel alive. Oh.
There's a world of entertainment here, and you run the show. Flow Evil.
Dominica is one step closer to finalizing a 3-year plan to develop its coffee subsector.
A national symposium to discuss the way forward for the country's coffee subsector was held on Monday. This is a continuation of prior plans and actions to bolster the coffee industry in Dominica. The Ministry of Agriculture is leading the charge in this program with technical support from the Inter-American Institute for Agriculture, ICA.
We invited all stakeholders to a meeting so we could conceptualize a work plan for the next 3 years. And we want to look at this work plan as a pilot phase in terms of the rebuilding of the subsector. So during that time we were looking at the proposed actions that the ministry will be involved in, as well as other actions that other partners, other stakeholders will be involved in, and we can identify from that some key priorities that we need to do, all the kind of validation work we need to do, the recording and the documentation of best practices, looking at certain specific actions that we want to engage, both in terms of producers, the ministry, building the capacity along the value chain. So at the end of the day, in the next 3 years, we'll be able to have some answers or how we should really expand the subsector.
In 2016, ICA launched a project in response to Dominica's quest for a viable coffee production here. Technical teams from Dominica have been to Costa Rica and Jamaica to observe the practices in their successful and sustainable coffee industries. Copel says some of these practices are already being used in Dominica, while others will be introduced more gradually.
Some of the traditional systems seems to be similar to that, what we have been practicing, but I think it's an opportunity for us to revisit the technologies. We could modify what we have to ensure that we can have some good returns in terms of our productivity, in terms of handling of the commodity itself. Where I think they have gone past in terms of standardizing or put it this way, building consistency in the quality of the end product, which is the beverage that we would consume as a coffee. So the issue of roasting, the issue of pulping, the issue of packaging are all things that we will learn from. And very importantly is the whole linkages with other sectors, like for instance agritourism. So there are some of the things that we could learn from, some of the things that they practice in terms of coffee production we could learn from.
Currently, there is just over 1 acre under coffee cultivation on the island. The aim is to have 100 acres dedicated to coffee production by the end of the 3-year period.
Forestry officials warning the public to desist from the illegal hunting of the country's wildlife.
The hunting season, which usually runs from 1st October to 31st December, remains closed this year as a result of Hurricane Maria's impact on the population of the wildlife. Assistant Forest Officer with responsibility for the protection and conservation of Dominica's flora and fauna, Francisco Maffei, says despite the division's continuous publicity that the hunting season is closed, officers have still come across those who illegally hunt and attempt to export the wildlife protected by Dominica's laws. The Assistant Forest Officer revealed that the most commonly illegally hunted animal at this point is the crab.
We have observed some illegal hunting along the coast and certain parts in the interior by Calibishi going down, making the run around the island. Now, probably persons are unaware, I guess, but I know we give a lot of notification to the public via radio, television, what's going on. There's no hunting season. All during the Creole Festival, it was well broadcast. We intercepted someone, 1 or 2 persons, trying to leave the island with crabs. Person said it was a foreigner, but probably they really didn't know, based on the understanding, based on the conversation that we held with the guy. But anyway, we also saw persons along the highway, maybe not in huge quantities, but you know, they're trying to catch a little crab on the side of the road. So I think I would just like to remind the public that after the passage of Hurricane Maria, that the species are vulnerable. What transpired in the forest has decreased our wildlife.
This is the second consecutive year that the hunting season has remained closed. Maffei says last year there was a greater level of disregard for the closed hunting season.
This year, persons coped better than last year. Like with respect to the illegal hunting. Last year probably the food source was a bit more difficult to get just after Maria, so persons indeed were hunting as form of survival. But this year they were mindful of the ban on the hunting season. They respected it, although I heard certain things that I might not bring on the ear, but it was better controlled this year than last year.
The animals protected from being hunted during the closed season are crabs, red-necked pigeons, manicou, agouti, and freshwater species, namely crayfish, mullets, shrimps, and freshwater crabs. Andrea Louis, Channel 5 News.
And an advocate for early childhood education or early childhood development is challenging authorities to involve the young ones in nation building. The call came from Assistant Education Officer in the Early Childhood Development Sector, Vida George, who says it would be in the country's best interest if young children are assisted in developing an appreciation for tourism very early on.
There is a popular saying in Dominica that tourism is everybody's business. I want to extend an invitation to the Ministry of Tourism to work with us in early childhood development to explore ways in which we can begin involving our children at the early childhood level to have an appreciation for the tourism sector. On an annual basis, November is celebrated as Early Childhood Development Month, and November is right in the middle of the tourist season. Let us see how we can marry the two in building a resilient nation for tomorrow.
She believes it would also be worthwhile to explore ways of using local food to make baby formula for local consumption and export.
My question is in light of the comments that were made concerning the use of local foods to feed our babies as we speak of being resilient. What plans are in place to find out the real benefits and possibilities of using our local products to make baby foods for local consumption and maybe for export? Maybe the Ministries of Health and the Ministries of Agriculture can take the lead in getting the discussion going.
Rudolph Thomas Enterprise in Portsmouth, your suppliers of building materials and hardware products. Over 20 years experience in the business. Rudolph Thomas has lumber and plywood, galvanized and fence pipe. Check out Rudolph Thomas for ceramic and vinyl floor and wall tiles, nails, nuts and bolts, paint and painting supplies. And check out their line of electrical and hand tools. Go now to Rudolph Thomas on 1240 Bay Street in Portsmouth.
If you're HIV positive or have an STI, having unprotected sex with multiple partners puts them in grave danger. You'll expose every partner and their present and future partners to HIV or another STI. Use a condom every time you have sex. You can live a productive life even if diagnosed with HIV. Remember, early detection is key to your survival. Be responsible, protect yourself and others. Help stop the spread of HIV and other STIs.
To end the news, a look again at the headlines. Health professionals suggest a family approach to fighting diabetes. Dominica closer to having a 3-year plan for coffee cultivation. And police seem to have cracked open the case of the missing money vault. Feel free to contact us at news@mapping2k4.com. You can access our past newscasts on our YouTube channel. On behalf of the production team, I am Julian Morris. Thank you for watching. Join us tomorrow.